Welcome to Conversations with Pastor Charlie, a series of candid, insightful discussions offering a godly perspective on current events, interviews with people from all walks of life, and other topics the Lord places on Pastor Charlie's heart. Now here's Pastor Charlie.
Well, howdy. I want to talk about helping God or trusting God. It's the danger of doing God's will the wrong way. Now, Genesis chapter 15, verses 1 through 6 says, "Sometime later, the Lord spoke to Abram in a vision and said to him, 'Do not be afraid, Abram, for I will protect you, and your reward will be great.' But Abram replied, 'O sovereign Lord, what good are all your blessings when I don't even have a son? Since you've given me no children, Eleazar of Damascus, a servant in my household, will inherit all my wealth. You have given me no descendants of my own, so one of my servants will be my heir.' Then the Lord said to him, 'No, your servant will not be your heir, for you will have a son of your own who will be your heir.' Then the Lord took Abram outside and said to him, 'Look up into the sky and count the stars, if you can. That's how many descendants you will have.' And Abram believed the Lord, and the Lord counted him as righteous because of his faith." Now, here are a few things that we need to understand. God gave Abram the promise. Since Abram was married to Sarai, the promise applied to her as well. The promise was that Abram and Sarai would have descendants that could not be numbered. Abram believed God, and his faith was counted as righteousness. Now let's skip ahead one chapter. Genesis 16, verses 1 through 6. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had not been able to bear children for him, but she had an Egyptian servant named Hagar. So Sarai said to Abram, "The Lord has prevented me from having children. Go and sleep with my servant. Perhaps I can have children through her." And Abram agreed with Sarai's proposal. So Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, the Egyptian servant, and gave her to Abram as a wife. This happened 10 years after Abram had settled in the land of Canaan. So Abram had sexual relations with Hagar, and she became pregnant. But when Hagar knew she was pregnant, she began to treat her mistress, Sarai, with contempt. Then Sarai said to Abram, "This is all your fault. I put my servant into your arms, but now that she's pregnant, she treats me with contempt. The Lord will show who's wrong, you or me." Abram replied, "Look, she is your servant, so deal with her as you see fit." Then Sarai treated Hagar so harshly that she finally ran away. Now, very quickly, I want to point out 7 things that were done wrong in these 6 verses. Number 1, Sarai blamed God for her misfortune. Verse 2, it said, "The Lord has prevented me from having children." It's always easier to find a reason not to believe than to trust God. Number 2, Sarai came up with her own way for the promise to happen. In verse 2, it said, "Go and sleep with my servant." When we can see how God will do it, or when we can't see it, we're tempted to make a way on our own. Number 3, Sarai counted on the wrong harvest. Verse 2 says, perhaps I can have children through her. Covenant promises can't be fulfilled through human substitutes. Number 4, Abram was persuaded by reason instead of standing in faith. Verse 2 said, and Abram agreed with Sarai's proposal. You know, sometimes the wrong way sounds reasonable, sometimes even logical. Number 5, Abram followed through without seeking God. Verse 4 says, so Abram had sexual relationships with Hagar. You know, doing things the wrong way often feels easier than doing them God's way. Number 6, there was a flaw in the plan. Verse 4 says, she began to treat her mistress with contempt. Hagar did. Treat Sarai with contempt. You know, let me tell you, God sees the whole picture. We never do. Number 7, the problem was never, ever truly addressed. Verse 6 says, this is Abram talking to Sarai about Hagar. She is your servant, so deal with her as you see fit. Let me tell you, unaddressed problems don't disappear. They grow. So here are 7 simple things we must do to avoid these 7 mistakes. Number 1, stop looking for someone to blame. We are in God's hands. Number 2, take every thought captive that exalts itself above God. Number 3, trust the God of the harvest. If He promised, He will fulfill it. Number 4, renew our minds daily so we don't listen to the wrong voices. Number 5, keep the communication line open with God. Number 6, put our complete trust in God, even when we don't understand the timing. And number 7, deal with problems as they arise before they multiply. God's promises don't fail, but our impatience can complicate them. Genesis 15 reminds us that faith is simply believing God at His word. Genesis 16 warns us what happens when faith is replaced with frustration. Abram and Sarai didn't stop believing in the promise. They just stopped trusting God's timing. And that's often where we struggle too. When we wait, the wait feels so long. When the silence feels so loud. And when the promise seems impossible, the temptation is to help God out. But every shortcut creates consequences God never intended us to carry. So here's the encouragement. If God made the promise, He already has the plan. If God spoke the word, He will bring it to pass. Our responsibility is not to manufacture the outcome, but to remain faithful in the waiting. Waiting on God is not doing nothing. Waiting is trusting. Waiting is obeying. Waiting is believing that God is working even when we can't see it. So don't rush what God is still shaping. Don't force what God is still forming. And don't give up on a promise just because it hasn't happened yet. God has never been late, and He won't start with you. God bless.
Jesus is coming soon. Are you ready to meet Him face to face? Are your family and friends ready to meet Him face to face? Please be ready. Then help others get ready. God bless.